Well, gentlemen, welcome. We're going to talk about the quality of life, investing in the quality of life, and we'll start in Miami, and we'll go all the way to Saudi Arabia, and I suspect points in between. So why don't we start in Miami, and Charles, we'll start with you talking about if you look at what's investing in the quality of life here in Miami, there's been so much change happening in Miami. And then I wanted to ask you, Jeff, is the investing in the quality of life keeping pace with the change that's happening in the city?
I think, listen, when I moved to Miami 3 years ago, every time anyone brought up Miami, they always said, why'd you move there? And the answer was, you must move there for two reasons, taxes and weather, right? And I always tell people that tax and weather aren't even the top 5 reasons why I moved here or why I moved my business here or why I started to focus here. Miami had this incredibly welcoming spirit. It was set up for success from the top down. People supported great businesses that wanted to come here and create and tell their stories through whatever medium, do their thing and support them. And that was something coming from New York and from elsewhere that I hadn't seen before. And that encouragement, if you did your job well, whether it was in restaurants, and that acknowledgement of the importance of restaurants and hospitality within an ecosystem, to your point of quality of life, and how that has an impact on people's quality of life, has made a huge impact on what we've decided to do here. And, when you ask that question to me, it also kind of brings me back to earlier this morning when the mayor and His Excellency were speaking, because that's very much the same way we feel about Saudi Arabia. And we've been spending time there for, at least the last 5 years, and have really gotten to understand that vision and the 2030 plan and the things that they're looking for. And there's a lot of similarities between the amazing qualities for quality of life and business in Miami as there are in the plans for what's happening in Saudi Arabia. And I can tell you, as myself and my company, those are the 2 markets that we focus on the most, and they share so many of those incredible qualities.
Well, let's go, since you mentioned Saudi Arabia, let's go to Jerry. And Jerry, I know you've had frequent conversations with the Crown Prince about this very issue. I don't know if you can get into specifically some of the things that he says, but tell us, what's the feeling in Riyadh about quality of life?
Well, thank you. I'll start briefly by saying that for me, it's a kid in a candy store to be on the stage with these guys. I mean, what they have done in their careers, and especially to Miami, is a privilege. This morning, our great friend Richard Attias talked about humanity, very, very important subject to His Majesty the King, and very important to the Crown Prince. So I've lived in Miami twice, but I'm a little older than most people, so I was manager of the Fontainebleau from 1978 to 1980, and then I did an epic hotel here a few years later called the Delano. Now, why am I bringing that up now? Because Miami was going through a very kind of difficult transition where quality of life was an imperative. But after 5 decades of serving, people say, well, why did you go to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia 5 years ago? Was it because it's a G20 country, it's a wealthy nation? No, I went because I wanted to earn a spot on the team of Vision 2030. Now, we're privileged because we get a lot of interaction with His Royal Highness. And I will tell you, rarely, if ever, will you attend one meeting with him where the subject of quality of life doesn't come up. Now, Diriyah is the birthplace of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's a source of national pride. It's the national identity. It's the home of Al Saud in the presence and the honor of Princess Rima. So now, with us, every day, are my people happy? Are they healthy? Do they believe in their future? Are they positive, right? So everything we do in a $14,063 billion master plan is based upon quality of life. It was so important to the Crown Prince, he set up its own ministry called Quality of Life. So the measurements that His Excellency Al Rumian mentioned this morning, about being really measured with the Crown Prince, we have to report to him monthly on quality of life issues. So without getting into a lot of statistics, I will mention two things. We're a very big project, and you've heard from many of them today. This is our third year in a row where we won platinum status in terms of leads with environmental protection and sustainability. We just won in another year best place to work, not the global best place to work, and we broke the top 10. So 85% of our staff is Saudi, 36% of our staff is Saudi women, 16% of those Saudi women are in management, and 14% of our staff are from Diriyah. So now if you come to Saudi Arabia, the one thing with quality of life that drives the fuel of that country is positivity and optimism. And this is very good because people are psychologically happy, now getting fit, now being outdoors. We will finish this year 9 kilometers of linear parks in 1 year because the Crown Prince with Vision 2030 wants 40% of the population outdoors at least 3 or 4 times a week. And we've already hit that mandate. So with him, it's an everyday thing, and he thinks about it all the time.
I want to go to Charles next, but I want to ask you something. When you talked about this Ministry of Quality of Life, when you look at what's happening in various countries around the world, is that ministry making a big difference? Should other countries also have similar ministries?
I personally believe so, because with the Crown Prince, when you're a G20 country, and a lot of the talks this morning were protecting your national interest and stuff like that. But if you ask the Crown Prince, what is the greatest protection of national interest? He will tell you the people of Saudi Arabia, right? And especially the young people of Saudi Arabia, right? So what he has given us in terms of training and development and money towards physical fitness, and it's holistic. So I believe that if you're going to accomplish a global system of humanity, it has to start with your people first, which is what Richard and His Excellency Al Rumian spoke about this morning. So, look, I asked years ago, since the millennium, we've doubled the amount of countries that have ministries of tourism. It's doubled. Ministries of tourism have grown faster than any single ministry, but I would love to see all 238 countries have a ministry of quality life. Ours is not a formal ministry, but we have a full division within government that's called Quality of Life with a CEO.
Similar to what we're seeing with some countries doing the Minister of Happiness.
Yeah.
Maybe something similar. Charles, you're talking a lot about art and culture. And how is art and culture playing into the quality of life in cities around? For those of us who live here in Miami, that's a huge part of life in Miami. What are you seeing around the world?
Well, two things I would say. The first is that having museums and artistic offerings as part of the fabric of a city, of a growing community, is, in my view, fundamental to its success. These are the most popular attractions, places to be. It's educational, it's community building, it's transcendent in many ways. And so whether it's the growing city of Miami in the South Florida region, whether it's Saudi Arabia, who is on this unbelievably exciting and ambitious journey, thinking about the museum possibilities is an important element. But there's a second element, which is actually building an ecosystem around arts and culture. So that includes artists themselves and small galleries, and eventually all these things feed off each other and create a vibrant and, I think, fundamental fabric to what a city in the next today and going forward really means. That's a huge opportunity in Saudi Arabia in particular. Exciting to see.
I want to go to Craig and sort of picking up on on the last point that you make, looking at creativity and what impact that's having on cities and also in investing. What are you seeing?
Well, I think listening to Jerry and Charles, I could actually give a model that illustrates a way to do this. There are lots of ways to do it. So I was a developer in Miami from the onset. One of the things that frustrated me early on was South Beach, where I worked initially, was like the Renaissance in Miami. It brought Miami back. But it was like a fun in the sun party place. And that always bothered me. Like people just wanted to go to nightclubs and go to the beach. And we started working on a neighborhood called the Miami Design District. And the whole DNA of the neighborhood was it was equally a place for culture as it was for business. 50-50, really truly 50-50, meaning that the neighborhood should be an outdoor museum of art, architecture, and design. You should be able to see all kinds of content in the neighborhood that illustrates that, whether it's music or art, and it should be a place that flourishes for commerce. And the goal was to create a sense of community that people would really love, something that was different, and something that could be like a resource for all of Miami. And so we embarked on that. And the first thing that we did was brought back some of the furniture stuff that was historically there. But then there was this opportunity to bring Art Basel to Miami. And a small group of us collaborated and made that happen. And for me, that was really important because I wanted Miami, our whole city, to be known as a cultural community. But as part of that, what we did was we made the design district like a center where people could do exhibitions during the event, where brands could do activations. And it was inspired by Salone, this very unique thing that was happening in Milan at the time that wasn't happening anywhere else in the world. It was a place like where an entire city celebrated culture, in that case, design. And so Miami embarked on this thing of creating art, and the design district became early on a center of that. And then we founded a show branded Design Miami. It was the first major collecting show for furniture design in the world that had really limited edition contemporary design. And combining it with Art Basel and partnering with Art Basel, it really made Miami a place that was inventing culture, adding to the global dialogue of culture. And through that, designers like Zaha Hadid, Mark Newson did beautiful collaborations in the neighborhood. And then finally, the crescendo was that led to the global fashion brands really choosing it as one of 15 places in the world to do major flagships, but inspired by this creativity. And we're like halfway through the process, but it really illustrates a lot about what Jerry and Charles were saying.
Barry, when the global fashion brands and others come to Miami, they need someplace to stay. And what role is hospitality playing in, not just in Miami, but nationally and globally?
I'd zoom all the way out.
Yeah.
We've heard about amazing retail development, great restaurants, an icon of the art world, and probably one of the most, if not the most exciting project going on in the whole world. We're doing 3 hotels with Jerry, who's an old friend from a long time ago with the Kersner family. And talk about quality of life. I mean, that company was sort of built around delighting the guest. I think, I invest globally in property all over the world. And I think if you think about relevancy today, quality of life is like driving market share. It's driving the success of cities, that cities are focused on improving the lives of their citizens. And that brought me to Miami a long time ago. And just like Jeff, I had the same reaction. I might have come here thinking I would save some money on taxes. But I also came here and was completely surprised by the attitude towards business and success and helping companies succeed. And I think, their attitude of wanting to see us successful and not denigrating success in the United States, we're sort of splitting. And the quality of life states are doing really well. And the taxes are just one thing. Like they all are optimistic, they're getting jobs, they're creating more jobs. All the doctors are headed to Texas. They're leaving the Northeast, and the cities are losing populations because there is no focus on quality of life, and whether it's crime or other issues, a poor education system. So quality of life for us, and then you take it into the commercial realm, which is now we'll talk about hotels. I think it's changing because of the way people define quality of life. I think the generations below us have really changed the way how you find out about where there's good things happening. So whether it's on social media or streaming, I think people are looking for meaning and they're looking for purpose, and whether it's sustainable development, they're picking criteria today that you can actually decide what you're doing, where you're doing it. And you know, I love his place. I mean, the art, I just go to look at the art. I can't afford anything in the stores, so I just look at the facades, which are beautiful. And occasionally I shop with this guy. But I think in hospitality, I think the newest thing is 3D. You have to think about everything about your consumer. And I look at the world as 2D brands and 3D brands. So the old hotels, and I ran Starwood Hotels, and we just did a bed, and we tried to get you a hotel and a place you wanted to stay. That's no longer the winning formula. You know, our newest brand, One Hotels, which is teaching people they can live a luxurious life but a more sustainable life, is dominating every market they go into. And it wasn't a new idea, but we made it the focus of the brand. And you know, it was the #1 hotel out of 221 hotels on TripAdvisor in Miami, and you never see that with a luxury hotel. Usually the luxury guys don't even respond to surveys. They don't say anything. And the guests so appreciated what we were doing that they gave us a rate that was 2x what we thought we would achieve, and it's sustained that position in the marketplace. It's interesting to see, though. It is about the body. It is about the spirit. It's about what it smells like. It's about the food. It's the holistic approach to travel today that really people can find destinations, and they're looking for places that resonate with how they define what quality of life means to them individually, because people have different definitions, especially as you go internationally. So if you think about that, I was thinking as you were talking that I might have to appoint a minister of happiness in our hotel company. But it was funny, I was at Augusta recently, the golf course, and I was talking to the chairman, and there was a new chairman of Augusta. His name is Fred Ridley. He'll be presiding over the tournament next week. And the first thing he did was he empowered the staff. He told the members the staff are more important than them. Now, that was like heresy at Augusta National. You have kings and queens of business and industry. And he said to me, if my staff is happy, my members are going to be happy. And I think as we think about our businesses, that is true. Our employees will produce. Your employees will engage. And I think that happened with One Hotels. Our employees told the story of the beetle kill, the wood that we saved 35,000 trees by using this wood. And they got engaged in the dialogue, and it happened even better than I thought. So it's really exciting when you kind of turn yourself upside down and think about that's your goal, quality of life. And remember, it's defined differently by different people. So that's the challenge, is it's not all the same. It's not one thing for everyone.
And that's a really good point, because I know we don't have too much time. I wanted to ask Jeff a question about gentrification. And in some cases, some people are saying, for some people, the quality of life has improved. But for others, it hasn't. In fact, in some cases, some people have had to move. How is that impacting the decisions that you make when you look at where you're investing?
I think that in general, the quality of life, when you have everything that's represented on the stage, you have the best in hotels, art, everything hospitality related in the world, and design, neighborhood planning, everything on this stage, food and beverage. When you combine those things, the quality of life that someone can encounter and what that does for a city or a country and what it does for their future, and to the point that Barry was just making, what it does for the people who get to be a part of that ecosystem and be in the middle of creating what this new society looks like and this new quality of life looks like, I think that it all overall turns into a net positive across the board, because everyone benefits, including, maybe, sure, someone might have to move or someone might have to, change their apartment. But if they're a part of something, right, and they're a part of something that really means something to them, and it's all these things that's sitting on this stage combined, it can be life-changing for them, and it really becomes something that's meaningful because they were a part of actually changing a city or changing a society or changing a country. And that's how it feels. I know that's how we feel here, and that's how it feels with Vision 2030. It feels that way when I'm in Diriyah with Jerry and I'm sitting having dinner with him. You can feel it. It's palpable. And so I think that across the board, I think, bringing these things together when, from the top down, people respect them, each craft, and bringing them together as one, quality of life for everyone gets improved dramatically.
We're out of time, gentlemen. Thank you very much for this great enlightening conversation. Thank you all very much.